Put it somewhere.
We could create
Okay.
all
All right. I'd like to call to order the Town of McCandless Agenda Review Meeting, October 15th, 2018. Our first order of business is a public hearing on the ordinance tentatively identified as ordinance number 1479 as requested by Barrel Chevrolet Incorporated to amend the Town of McCandless zoning code to change the zoning district of certain properties located on Little Meadow Road from R2, 1 and 2 family residential districts to C3 highway commercial districts, and amending the zoning map of the town accordingly. This revision to the previously posted amendment reduces the amount of area to be rezoned to C3 highway commercial district. A vote will be scheduled at council's regular business meeting, October the 22nd, 2018, and we will be taking public comment tonight and before we vote next week. All comments are directed to the chair. Each town resident or taxpayer may comment one time up to 5 minutes.
Okay, this is our third hearing on this. The first hearing it was, we decided there should be a revision. So that was the second hearing. Second hearing was held, and there haven't really been any changes. This was properly posted in accordance with the municipality's planning code. It was properly advertised in accordance with the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, and notices were sent out in accordance with the municipality's planning code and the town charter. So essentially, there haven't been any changes since the last public hearing. This is the Barrel property, which is located on Little Meadow Road. It is behind Barrel Chevrolet and Barrel Honda. The rezoning is, the proposal is to demolish 2 dwellings which are on the property and rezone a driveway to C3 and the 2 homes to C3. There is a 100-foot area which is not to be rezoned. It's going to be a split zone property. It will be zoned R2. We had a meeting with the residents, which is one of the reasons that we held up why we're having another public hearing. We had a meeting with the residents that adjoin the property and with another neighbor who doesn't adjoin the property. And also Dan Gracham from Tate Engineering had done a stormwater study, a very pretty complete stormwater study. It was reviewed for practicality by our stormwater engineer. This is a practical stormwater. It will work. There are some new pipes that have to be put in as part of this plan, and we'll replace some pipes, this pipe in particular. The neighbors were all fine with what we were doing. In fact, none of them showed up, and during our meeting they said they were fine with it. So I don't really have anything to add to that.
Does anyone on council have any questions? Oh, do you all have anything to present?
I just have one brief comment. Bruce, there were a couple of things that Darryl has agreed to with regard to the parking lot that I just wanted to make sure I address on the record.
Okay.
Number one, this is going to be an unlit parking lot in accordance with our promises to the neighbors so that there will not be light shining into their yards. There's no speaker system. There's no speaker system on any of the Barrel lot. I understand that someone else has that, but Barrel does not. We don't do that to the neighbors. Delivery hours for truck drop-off and truck drop-offs will be from like 7 a.m. I think it's 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., but I will check on that. I can't remember if it's 7 to 7 or 7 to 9. I will confirm that for you.
It will be the same as what we did the last time.
It's going to be exactly the same as what is in the existing agreements. And then the lot is split zoned, as you've already stated, for the rear lot, which I call Tommy Lang's property, which is, I believe, lot, is it 3? Lot 3? Is it 3 Little Meadow Road or?
Oh, 3 Little Meadow Road, yes.
Okay, I think it's 3 Little Meadow Road, which that lot will be split zoned so that the rear will be residential and the front will be commercial. And that's my comments.
Any comments or questions from council? So, Bruce, where do we write down, I know this is just for the zoning part, but where do we write down where it says there'll be no speakers? So in 20 years from now, when we're all not here, they know there's not allowed to be speakers.
Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, we can't do a conditional rezoning, so I believe the way Christina worded it was, they have not only agreed, but suggested this be part of the rezoning. That gets us out of the conditional rezoning. They're suggesting it, which is, I didn't say anything about that, Christina came up with that.
This is what we do. We, as I've stated several times, we try to make sure that we communicate with our neighbors. This is what the agreements are with our neighbors, so that the property can be handled appropriately in accordance with what their needs are as much as our own.
And I believe we can make that actually part of the motion, as long as it's an agreement rather than a condition.
Right, it's not, it's an agreement instead of a condition that runs with the land, so it's between two parties, so that's how we'll have to do it.
How will we have to do it? That will be
As
part of the
in-
motion, no speakers, no lights, and that they will take full responsibility for the maintenance of the detention pond?
Oh, that's what else I need to add.
Oh, well, the detention
Yes,
pond,
thank
there
you.
will be a written agreement for the, that's part of the requirement for our land development, there will be a written agreement for the stormwater facility.
Okay.
And they'll also have to provide a 10-year maintenance bond.
Yeah.
Okay. So that will be in writing. And the speakers and the lights, where's that gonna be again? I'm sorry, I'm
My
trying to
thought was,
understand.
Chris, my thought was that will be part of the motion, but it'll be as an agreement that they have agreed to it and become part of the
So it would be
permanent record.
rezoned, and then separately, we would state that the parties have agreed that there will be no, okay.
That's
So-
my thought.
Is that okay?
Is that some,
I have no problem with that. I would also say that we probably should just reiterate that under site plan when we go through.
I
something.
agree.
We'll certainly be part of the site plan.
That'd be-
Okay.
that should
And
be-
that's how we did it under the other part.
That's
when we did
exactly
the other
it.
one.
that would probably be
And then we
the
have a record,
safest way to do it too.
that
But-
record is kept in the zoning
I'm
office.
going to make sure that it's part of the what I'm telling the public now, because this is what our agreement and promise to the community is. However, we will also make it a condition, specific condition of site plan
There you
approval,
go.
okay?
Perfect.
There we
So
go.
it's written
Good,
down.
I'm glad you said that.
That's where it'll be written.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from council? Any comments or questions from the public? Please come up and state your name.
Hi, I'm Debbie Sagan from Parkland Drive. I just was curious, what happens after 10 years with the retention pond? There's a 10-year agreement, I guess you're going with? And then whose responsibility is it after 10 years?
It's always their responsibility. The bond is for 10 years.
They're being,
And
they're our
we'll-
corporation?
Or whoever the property
owners.
owner is.
Why do you
it
put that
goes with the-
stipulation in then? I'm just curious, why do you put the 10-year stipulation in?
Because they have to, we keep that money, it becomes sort of a perpetual maintenance
Escrow.
fund. Perpetual escrow, another way to put it, perpetual maintenance fund.
It's part of the municipality's planning code requirements,
What is?
that we put the bond in place.
But why 10 years? Why limit it?
That was a
then?
number that we picked.
Yeah,
We
why
just-
not do it in perpetuity? I'm just curious, because in
Because-
10 years, or, what's gonna happen to those people that live around there then?
It's, the money, it was meant to be a perpetual bond, more or less a perpetual fund. It goes into our general fund, and then the idea is that it builds.
So why not just say,
Their maintenance
Forever
does
and
not
ever.
end in 10 years, but we can't keep their money forever. So that's what we're just giving them money back, but they still have to take care of it. Am I right on this?
I think, and the other big issue is that getting a bonding company to give you a perpetual bond is not gonna happen.
so
That,
what will happen then in 10 years?
in 10 years, what happens is that the bond will only be for the 10-year term, and then at that point, the bond dissolves. It's just, for practical purposes, you're never gonna get a bonding company go further than that. It's just,
And it's cash, we do it in
Yeah.
cash.
Usually maintenance bonds are significantly shorter than that, and their general purpose is to just make sure the facility is built correctly, and if it's not, you have that chunk of money that you can go to. And if it's there and it's working for 10 years, the odds are that it was built properly, so.
They're responsible if there is no money left and if the pond is inspected by the town, then it is gonna be their responsibility to correct within a period of, reasonable period of time.
Barrow's responsibility,
Yeah.
not the neighbor.
The owner, whoever the owner is. and
At
then-
that point,
Yep.
yeah.
It's
Okay.
always the owner's responsibility unless we take it over, we will not be taking this over.
Okay.
It's private.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Please come and state your name.
John Harrison, 1473 Hedwig. My one question is, I understand what Barrow is trying to do, and as far as putting the no lights, which is great if you live in that community, and those speakers. But if 5 years down the road Barrow sells that property, what do those people that live in that community have as a fallback that new landlord or new owner of that property? It's already been zoned as highway commercial, which is set up for a car dealership, which ends up setting it up that that dealership could put speakers in, could put lights in. What stops that from happening at a future date for those people that live in that local community?
I think that's exactly why we're trying to address it here, both at the time of the zoning and as a condition of our site plan approval. Those conditions run with the land.
Okay, so once that's put in place, you can't go back, you can't change it, they have to come back to
Exactly.
council to get it changed.
Council will have to, for
Okay.
example, if they wanna come in for a land development, that was another reason we didn't change that 100-foot. If they wanna come back in and say in 30 years we wanna build a building, they would have to come back in for a new approval. The setback doesn't go from the property line of the neighbor, it goes from the property line where it's rezoned.
Okay,
So that's another reason we changed it,
okay,
And
so
why
it
we
does
have to
protect
have it
those
in.
people then,
Yes,
for in the
we-
future if that happens.
for a couple of reasons, yes.
Okay.
The township has spent a lot of time with the neighbors and with Barrow to make sure that we have something that everybody can live with.
Okay,
Yeah, we've had 3 meetings with the neighbors to discuss this, plus they came to the first public hearing.
okay, all right, thanks.
Thanks for asking.
Yep.
Any other citizen comments? Okay, hearing none, the public hearing is closed. Next order of business is to interview 2 candidates for the position of junior council person. Isha, am I close?
Yes, that's
Oh,
correct.
good. What's the last part?
Lydia.
All right, come up right here, dear.
I actually have printed copies of my CD if you wanted them.
Okay, I think we have copies, but
Okay.
I think
I actually left mine at home, so I'll
Okay.
take one.
Steve, tag me one as well.
all right.
Thank you.
So Isha, the way we do this is we give you a couple minutes. Anyone else need one? We give you a couple minutes to tell us about yourself and why you want to do this, and why you'd like to be a junior council member, and then we'll go around the table and we'll just ask you simple questions. Don't be nervous.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Well, my name is Isha Vaidya, and I'm a junior at North Allegheny Senior High School. Some of my favorite subjects in school are biology and chemistry, and this is mainly because I'm very interested in medicine and health policy. This is definitely something I want to do in the future. Outside of academics, I'm very engaged in the student council. In fact, I was even elected as student council president 2 times, and I intend on running for my senior year. I'm also very engaged in Key Club, which is a volunteer-oriented program, so I volunteer in school and out of school for that. Outside of school, I play golf. I've been playing since I was 5, actually, and I've been on the North Allegheny girls varsity golf team since my freshman year of high school. And we've won the WPIAL championships all 3 years, and last year we won state championships, and we're actually gunning to win state championships again this year, so I'm very proud and excited. Besides that, I also play piano at Carnegie Mellon University, and it's really nice to have piano to look forward to, something to de-stress after a long day at school and golf practice. It's nice to just come home and play to relax. So I know that was probably a lot of information to take in, but I guess to sum me up, I'm someone who never gives up and is interested in a wide variety of things.
I see, Isha, that you volunteered for disabled awareness camps in rural village in India. How was that experience?
It was an amazing experience, actually. It was in Maharashtra, in Thane, and it was the rural villages. So there were a lot of villages there that we visited, and it was for diabetes awareness. And it was actually a very humbling experience, because a lot of the villagers there, they don't have access to medical facilities or hospitals. So if they have diseases like diabetes, which are silent diseases, they never know, and they die because they don't come to know they have them. So all these doctors, they went and they lectured there in layman's terms, so everybody could understand how to diagnose it and treatment. And then we tested everybody. So it was a very humbling experience.
Very good, thank you.
As president of your student council, what has been one of your most important experiences that you've had over the years on it?
Well, I would say that's a very interesting question, because whenever I first ran to be president in 7th grade, I ran because I thought it would be fun, making all the posters and the pins and campaigning with my friends. I just did it because it was fun. But as soon as I heard my name announced to be president, the weight of that position suddenly hit me. And my peers, they had elected me, they had trusted me to be their leader, and I had the power to make an impact. And as the year went on, I realized that not only was I good at communicating with people and listening to them and being a leader, but I really liked doing it. So I really, really love being able to represent people of different backgrounds and different causes.
Great, thank you.
Isha, have you looked at your schedule? Will you have any conflicts with our meeting nights? You have a very full load. I appreciate that.
I try to balance it, but if it's after school, the golf season is going to end next week. Actually, we have our state championships. So after that, I'll be a lot more free to do it, and I can work my homework around anytime. If it's after school, I'll be able to work it in.
So no training or any other obligations on Monday evenings?
No.
You're good?
No.
Okay.
I
Good.
practice on my own, so I can tailor my schedule to however I want it.
Great, thank
So-
you. Okay.
Thank you.
Are you at all interested in becoming involved in governmental work or politics?
Yes, actually, so my passion is medicine, and I definitely want to be a physician, but I'm also very interested in health policy, and I think they kind of go hand in hand, because you can have a physician who knows all the science behind medicine, and he can diagnose one person, and then he can go to his next patient and diagnose him, but that physician will have kind of like a tunnel vision, so he's only dealing with that one patient. But with health policy, you have to look at the whole population and how it could affect them. So I think they kind of go hand in hand, and that's why I'm very interested in health policy and medicine and how it could affect the whole population.
So it would go broader than just local government?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have no questions.
The Key Club had a nice showing at our cleanup day on Saturday. Were you able to make that at all?
I was not able to make that,
I
unfortunately.
couldn't remember if I saw you or not. So, I don't have any questions. Thank you for applying.
Thank you so much.
Very lovely to meet you.
It was nice to meet you.
Okay. Michael, is
Bobby.
it Taft?
Tap, yes.
Oh, good, okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, same thing. Thank you. Couple minutes to talk about yourself. Last questions? Do you have any? We have any?
All right, thank you. So my name is Michael Taff. I am also a junior at North Allegheny Senior High School, and my favorite classes are AP United States History and Economics this year. And outside of school, I am involved in the Model United Nations and the Nash Uproar newspaper, as well as a few other organizations. But Model United Nations has always been my main focus throughout high school, and it has been an incredible experience. Just last weekend, actually, we went to review for a pre-season conference in which I represented the delegation of Kazakhstan in the Security Council, where we discussed issues such as Boko Haram in Nigeria and the Gaza Strip in Israel, and it was just an incredible experience. And yeah, other things, last year, one of the best things that I've done throughout high school, or last year, was the mood conference at Pitt, where you had to be a lawyer and represent someone. And so the case was dealing with genocide, and you had to use previous cases, such as the one in Rwanda. So you would use past precedents, such as the case involving Jean-Paul Akiyisu, and you would have to use that precedent to represent someone else. So you'd say, using this precedent, my client did not fall under the United Nations and International Court laws to commit genocide, and it was just one of the best experiences I've had during high school.
Great.
You said you were involved in Pitt's moot court competition. Did you enjoy that competition?
Did you say did I enjoy it?
Yeah, did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it incredibly. It was one of the best experiences I've had during high school. Me and my partner spent so much time on it. There was 200 pages of court cases that we looked through, and it was just amazing seeing how law and court worked, and it really opened my eyes. That I always thought that I wanted to go into business or government, but that really shifted my focus more towards law, the law side of things, and it was amazing.
Yeah, and I think your resume said it enhanced your public speaking skill. I assume you see enhancing public speaking skill as a valuable asset for a public servant?
I do think it communicating with citizens, and most governmental positions of leadership have to do with campaigning, and you need to speak with citizens and know how to engage in thoughtful debate. And I think Model United Nations, especially, having to interact with different delegations from countries and people from many different school districts has really helped me enhance my public speaking ability, and I would like to join this program to help enhance it further.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
As a junior council person, how would you enhance it further and with communications?
Even from tonight, I've seen how you have all interacted with citizens who have questions about just the barrel topic about the zoning laws, and I was reading previous topics from previous meetings, and like the McKnight School is expanding, and I think that was part of like the zoning committee that was hosted, and even like seeing like how you guys interacted with the citizens and how you spoke to them and how you looked at it from different sides of the citizens and for the business already, I think is a valuable experience for me.
Okay, thank you.
Michael,
Yes. Hi.
you're a great candidate. I want to ask you just an off sidebar. How did you get interested and involved in this United Nations program?
So I had been involved or wanting to be involved in government and public relations for a while. In 6th grade, I became incredibly sick and missed about 3 months of school, in which I basically sat at home and A, caught up on schoolwork, but also B, just like had time to read and just like browse the internet basically, which is when I found my passion for government. And then my 7th grade English teacher, 7th grade history teacher who's diagnosed with cancer, was just one of the most incredible people that I've ever met, which further helped me find my passion for government. And then last year, one of my friends, Riley, was going around telling everyone, oh, this is a great place, organization, and then me and my friend decided to join as partners, which was when I met Mrs. Will, who's the head of Model United Nations, and she's also another incredible human being, and from there, I kind of just fell in love with the program.
It's a great story, thank you.
Thank you.
I see from your resume that you said that you are interested in politics. Are you interested in a particular part of politics, or would you be interested in the part where you would help with campaigning? Because there's a great difference.
Like most high school students, I don't know exactly what part of politics or business I want to go into, because originally I thought business and then politics, and now from moot I was thinking law. So just politics in general, and I just want to join this organization, the Junior Councilman Person Program, to just try different things out so I can figure out what part of politics I want to go into, whether it be federal or local.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
I have no questions.
I have no questions either.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for applying. Did a great job.
Thank you for accepting my interview. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Or just put this on the agenda for nomination next week. Okay. So I'm thinking that we will put this on the agenda next week or to make a nomination for someone. Okay, and then vote on that. So we'll add that to the next week's agenda. All right, the next thing is to review the bid tabulation for Steam Bank restoration on an unnamed tributary. We should name that. It will be a contest. Unnamed tributary?
We named it, it'll be McTributary.
We can have a contest.
We should have a contest.
Want something to do? There you go.
We need a contest. Put that on the activities list.
Right.
To Lowry's Run along Highland Drive, it's called a flood, upstream from Oneida Avenue, under the 2018 segment of the town's PA DEP permit, pollution reduction plan, and project-specific PA DEP permit. Got your tabulations there? Everybody got those? I think we had 2 bidders. Is this the one?
7 pickups. I'll put in my manager's report a synopsis.
Okay. Both are responsible bidders, I assume?
Yes.
Okay, so we usually take the lowest responsible bidder. Would that not be C. Crump?
That would be Crump.
Crump?
We met Crump, Mr. Crump, the owner, at the bid meeting. I pointed out in my manager's report on the first page under this project, I've been giving us a running report each month. The amount that we budgeted was $114 based on an estimate of developed last November. The low bid is $122,750. Mr. Crump pointed out that our specifications for restoration are significant, and that's where a lot of the cost went. So it's not too far off. And we noted that since this is our first plunge into the stream bank restoration world, this specific project could cost less or more. And we have money left over in the companion project that we do each year, which is the stormwater detention facility restorations. So they're both in the same category of the budget. So we actually have $37,215 left over that we can apply. So it's the bid being a good responsible bid. Engineer and I are recommending that we move ahead so we can give these folks some relief.
Yes.
A question, when I look at these, I always look for anomalies to make sure that the bids are appropriate. And I just saw a significant variance in the stone removal, the cost per ton. And I wonder if you discussed that with the bidder, just to make sure that they didn't miss anything, and that they don't get into a pickle. It seemed that the $20 per ton to remove and stockpile in place materials was of significant variance to the other bid, and everything else kind of made sense. I understand where they pushed, where they maybe interpreted the site prep versus the sedimentation control, and that's an easy swap and understandable.
And sometimes you wonder if they move some of the money around. We've seen that over the years in some bids.
Certainly.
I'm sure you have too.
Certainly.
The Quar log installation is $65 per lineal foot different.
Yeah, but that's not nearly as dramatic a difference as the per ton cost of materials.
foot?
It's
20 to 360.
per
Yeah,
ton.
but
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not arguing necessarily, but a foot compared to a ton, it probably is actually very, the Quar log compared to the ton stone
It's a
removal.
You're right, Steve.
Right,
You're right, you're right.
you're only talking about this much of
Relationally
a space
speaking, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
right.
compared to
Yeah.
me.
Mhm.
Oh, not quite a ton.
He may have waited his bid, but, we did not talk
No
specifically.
concerns, I just wanted to make sure that there were no concerns with
No, I
with the
appreciate that
differences,
always.
that's all,
Mhm.
before we award,
And this is the amount of money they have to do the job.
Mhm.
very good.
And they came highly recommended, so we did some very fast background checking on them, and very thorough, so they seem good.
Any other comments or questions? Any other questions about this bid from the public? Okay, then that will be on next week's agenda too. Okay. Notification that a resolution from the town of McCandless, County of Allegheny Commonwealth of Pennsylvania approving the appointment of Judith M. Wagner as deputy tax collector effective November 1st, 2018, should be scheduled for adoption at the October 22nd, 2018 regular business meeting. This is Toby's attempt to reshuffle some of Regis' jobs, and this is one of those.
And she was recently appointed, and she seems even more competent than the person we interviewed a couple months ago. And also, state law requires that we have a deputy. So, and she would be filling that role, the acting role, while Regis' slot is vacant.
She's very good credentials.
Yes.
Any questions or comments from council?
Does she live here locally? Like, is she from the
She
area? Okay.
Any other questions from council? Any questions from the public? Okay, we'll move on. Discuss the scheduling of candidate interviews for appointments to expiring and vacant terms on boards, commissions, and committees. My only request with this was, is possible to have all the same committee at the same time. If we have 3 people applying for the EAC, let's interview all those people that night. So we can keep them straight in our, so we can keep them straight in our mind.
I agree.
So
That's a
that
good
way
idea.
we can kind of try, if at all possible, to try to do that. And because we have how many?
It looks like new folks, now some folks, when they apply for vacancies, one person's 1, 2, 3. I have a score sheet that is still a draft that Marie put together. The closing date to apply was Friday at 5 p.m. So one person applied for it, 1, 2, 3, 4, well, every vacancy except the personnel board. Nope, he applied for that one too. He applied for every vacant, except the junior council person.
Okay.
Wasn't eligible. Had to be a junior, senior high school. So it looks like we have 14 or 15 people that are new. Plus, as I was telling Kim before the meeting, that we have a lot of folks that council has already interviewed for other positions, but we have a policy of we keep their resumes on hand for 2 years. So
We don't have to re-interview those people, do we?
I think what we'd like to do is give you a list of the folks that have been, you've already seen and you've talked with, and then you can decide if you want to re-interview them, and then let us know so we can get them lined up for interviews, or just say, hey, we know that person, we've interviewed them more than once. And then some people actually have applied, several have applied before and were not interviewed. So it's about 17 new faces, it appears. That's a rough count.
So, we're expecting 15 minutes an interview, is
10. 10 is what you've been doing.
Bring your sleeping bag.
Yeah, 3 hours minimum.
Well, we can do, we've got this budget that we need to be doing, plus all of our regular business. We can do a couple every night, or we can put the hammer down and come in an extra night. So I'm just throwing it out there but we have to figure that out for scheduling. The other thing we need to decide is, are we gonna tell the people we've already interviewed, no, we don't really need to see you, but, we have new council people, so
As
they
I was just
haven't.
gonna say.
We have.
So they haven't seen them,
Some
so to
people-
me,
Some you haven't.
so to me, it seems like
We have
we
to
should
interview
give
them all.
them, or we could give them the option to say, you came before council before, if you would like to come again, we'll be glad to have you. If not, we'll just put your resume in the pile if you're still interested. Some people who gave us the resume, we keep them for 2 years, may not be interested anymore. Oh, I've moved away, I'm not interested. So we just would contact them. How does that sound? Sound fair? Okay, yeah. So how do you wanna do it? That would probably be add 5 and 9, how many did you say? 17? Plus however many more?
Plus, those who've been interviewed before, who are not currently holding out a position either, right?
Right. Yeah, if they already have a position, then they're off.
Right.
And we don't know that everybody's gonna be able to make it that particular night that we do it.
Yeah.
It is-
So what we could do is do one night and then do a couple, if for the few that couldn't make it, do them after a meeting or something on whatever the following Monday or.
Can we do that Monday that we don't have a meeting?
We can do any of that. I just want us to agree on.
Which
on
Monday,
what
the
we can
first
do.
Monday or
Yes.
the last Monday? First Monday of the month, I probably can make that, I don't see why not.
I mean,
The
that's
agenda
just
review
a
is good.
suggestion.
The review of the, sorry, pretty tired. The review of the budget is gonna take, the way we ordinarily do it, the second Monday, the third Monday in November, and even some time at the business meeting. But those two, second and third Mondays are gonna be busy, for sure, they're gonna be busy.
That's the problem, is that this is budget time too.
Right.
So
So.
an extra night would
so to
probably help
have-
you.
Yeah, to have.
Right, so the
better to
first
have an
Monday,
extra
it sounds
night.
like we got Joanne and I are saying yes to
So
that.
November 5th, you're saying?
Yes,
Greg?
November 5th.
Monday, November fifth?
I think we're back from Philadelphia by then, yeah.
Yeah, I'm afraid
Yes,
I
he
probably
was saying
won't
yes.
join in, but I
Yeah, I'm
can
saying yes.
watch, the proceedings. I won't
Okay.
object.
Okay.
I have
Okay.
a conflict already.
Carolyn, what do you,
That will work for me.
it will work for you?
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
do you wanna start a little earlier than usual, like 6:30?
Let's see what
7?
the 5th of November says. The 5th of November. What do you think, friends? What's the earliest people can make it? Carolyn?
I could start at 6:30.
Okay, 6:30?
That's
Okay.
okay with me.
So that's.
6:30?
It's 6 per hour, so you'll get more than one, hopefully more than one committee load. You might have 2 committees worth. Again, some of these folks are multiple committee applicants, so we'll help you with this work. November 5th, being far enough out, we should be able to
Yeah.
rope in a lot of people. So how many do you wanna do total then, 3 hours worth?
I can't believe we
Or
would
we
wanna
get
do
busy
more
if
than
you want?
15.
15
hours.
15 hours?
Yes, it is the marathon
It'll feel like it.
interview.
It'll
That's
feel
right.
like it, Greg.
Exactly.
After 2.5, that'll be 2.5 hours worth.
Okay.
With a
If you
little
can try to-
intermissions.
Okay, so we can try 15 slots?
Yes, everyone? Can we make it?
Sure.
What time? 6:30?
Yeah, 6:30.
6:30.
November 5th.
15 minutes slots.
10 minute
10
slots,
minutes.
115 minutes, so you
Greg's
need
doing the math.
6:30 to 9. I was trying to, I was almost as fast as you.
Greg's doing the math.
You can't, okay.
Okay, we'll
right.
get to work on that.
All right, is that okay? All right, so, we'll do the, review of the business meeting agenda. Looks like Greg, you are in charge of the invocation. We'll do minutes. We'll do the so I've been getting educated on a conditional use public hearing, which apparently is different. So, everyone can know that the rules are different than our other public hearings with our time limits and how it goes back and forth. And everyone will have a copy of that so we all know what's happening before the next meeting. Anything else on that? Now, this says comments here be directed to the chair, but that's not the truth. That's not the case in a conditional use, is it? Is that right?
They're all, I think,
They're
comments.
generally, the chair is
You're in
the
control of the
presiding quote-unquote
Okay.
judge, so
There
you,
is no time limit.
But if they ask a question of sheets, then they direct it to, they direct it to sheets?
They could cross-examine, Sheets' person could be cross-examined by the protesters and vice versa.
Correct.
So they would then address it to the Sheets' person, or would they?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I know, but I know that's what
I think we go through, I think most of the chair recognizes and just keeps control of the
Yeah,
meeting.
so you're in charge, you're going to say, applicant put on your case, applicant puts on their case. Objectors, do you have any questions for the applicant? And then, yes, the applicant would ask the objectors would ask the applicant questions.
Okay.
And but everything formally, just like if you're at a court hearing, you're trying to convince the judge or the jury.
Never been
so-
in a court hearing.
Yeah, me either.
Okay.
Lucky folks.
Well, that's what I mean, so that's what we're
So,
learning
but no,
here.
Gavin and I will have something very soon,
Okay.
just kind of the overview, so everybody's
Okay.
comfortable with the way it will
Okay.
proceed.
We wanna do it, we just
And
wanna
are
do
they
a good
going to
job.
still have their 5 minutes only?
No, that's
It'll
what
be
I mean, it's all new
Potentially
rules.
longer.
That's
I
what,
mean,
It's
this,
potentially longer, but it probably won't be then.
Right.
but apparently conditional use.
I don't know.
This is what I was learning, apparently conditional use makes it different than other public hearings.
I just know that there are multiple opposers who,
Yeah, but they're not gonna be cross-examining, probably not. It could be, but they probably aren't. And in fact, they probably, I don't even know what they have, but,
I would,
Gavin has a good explanation that he's looked up, it's gonna be mailed.
and
Well, whatever the rules are, we'll go by them. How's that? Okay?
you know,
All right, the next thing is, and that's for the sheets. That's a public hearing for conditional use application drawn by the sheets for the service station on the 3 properties on Perry Highway. And then we'll review it. I'll just read the whole thing. This public hearing will be reviewed by Town Council's Zoning Committee on November the 12th. And a vote will be scheduled at Town Council's regular business meeting on November the 26th. So there'll be no voting at this meeting, just listening, questions, okay? Number 6, public hearing on the ordinance tentatively identified as ordinance number 1480 and ordinance amending Part 9, Article 913 of the codified ordinance of the Town of McCandless entitled Stormwater Management by deleting the existing Article 1913 in its entirety and replacing it with the new Article 913 to establish updated regulations regarding stormwater management and sedimentation and erosion controls within the town. The vote is scheduled at the council's regular business meeting on November 26th. Remember when we got $2,000 to rewrite our ordinances? That's this. We had to update them and bring them in line with what was going on with the county. That's
So,
what-
Madam President?
Yes.
Yes. I think it would be wise, I'd like to request for all council members to get a red line. I attempted to read the 61-page revision, and I'm
couldn't.
sorry, but I couldn't follow
I
the
couldn't.
changes.
I couldn't get through it all either.
And it's important that we all look at it carefully because and ensure that it aligns with the counties and doesn't, no liberties have been taken with property rights for people. So I just think that a red line would be great to review prior to the vote.
Do you think we need the counties and ours so we can lay them next to each other to look at them? Is that what you're thinking?
No, I think that our prior ordinance, which is fine, I know that it exceeded the county's ordinance in a couple areas, and I certainly support that, because we've always been a cutting edge. But the updates to align with the county, I wanna make sure that, I just wanna verify that we haven't taken additional liberties, our engineer hasn't taken additional liberties with us that we weren't aware of.
Okay,
So a red line compared to our old ordinance would be helpful,
okay.
if no one objects, if that's available, if that's possible.
I think there's an objector in the back. Oh, it's Bruce.
How dare you
Okay.
ask such a question? Anyway, what I wanted to point out was,
Darn
what I wanted to point out was when Gavin and Chris made a lot of changes, and when they made their changes, most of my changes were accepted. So I can give you my red line version, which has all of the, the perfunctory legal things in it, which guides you very well as to what the changes were.
I see.
And I can give you a blue line version, which has Chris's and Gavin's changes in it, most of Chris's and Gavin's changes in it. Chris attempted to blend them together, and you got a lot of them, but there's still a lot that are missing. So if you want the blue line version with Chris's changes on it, I can get you that, and I can get you the red line version also.
That
When?
sounds great.
It's gonna be confusing though, to have three
And
different.
we'll,
No more than the current 61 pages. I'm fine with that. I'll take a run at it.
Okay, well, if that's okay,
I think it's a
it's
good-
gonna
that's
be
a great
confusing
idea.
when you get it.
Now, how are we getting those?
Just electronically.
I can give you, if, however you want it.
When do you think?
Can we get them
I can do
tomorrow?
it, I can do it tomorrow morning.
Okay.
PDF's great.
Send it to all the ward, like,
Yeah, yeah, it's just electronic. It'll be easy
Yeah.
to send. Well, be long,
Yeah.
but we can look at it. Okay?
so
All right,
I'll send both copies.
Thank you.
okay, certainly. That was a great idea. Anyone have any other questions about this ginormous ordinance? Okay, any questions from the public about this? Okay, no, we're just moving on with this. We will do under finance and personnel, this is just approval of the checklist. Then we're gonna adopt a resolution setting various dates for the town, which we've not gone over that yet, but it's our calendar for next year. And then we'll move for supporting the small business proclamation. Is that in here? We haven't gone over that yet, or did we go over that? Let me see if that's on here. Did everyone see that? Okay, I just making sure we didn't have to go over it again. I'm just making sure, I didn't wanna just repeat myself. Everybody was fine with that for the Small Business Coalition, for small businesses, that's a possible resolution. Move to a resolution authorizing 2018 allocation of the general municipal pension system aid, we talked about that. Adopt a resolution designating assistant to the town manager, John Borgowski, as the town's open records officer. Again, redistribution of some of Reese's jobs. That's a position we also have to have. And if we're running across something anyone's confused about, please just jump in. Move to approve the land development application of La Roche for their batting cages. We went over that. Move to approve the land development North Allegheny School District. We need some money put in here, dollar amounts. What do
Well,
we-
wait a second, there's also the election, or renewal of a payment, at the end there. School district can elect to improve and maintain one of the paths that currently allow the students to travel between St. Simon Way and McKnight Elementary to the reasonable satisfaction of the town. Kids are currently using these informal paths to get connect with McCandless Crossing East. Again, as I pointed out last week, by merely one of them is right up the hill. It's about 100-yard path right behind the elementary, and it goes up to the one of the driveways of Lowe's, and then you can catch a sidewalk down on McCandless Crossing to McCandless Crossing East, down below where that ice cream, I think it's Mattel's or ice cream shop, and then you can make your way over to the McCandless Crossing East path. And so to leave that, to have the school do nothing about that, that path is currently pretty well grown over, and to leave that as the school not to do anything about that, and just focus on something that's going to be putting in money into a trust, and I'm not even sure what this trust is, because I don't think that would. It seems like you either get a waiver, or you put in the sidewalk, and I don't see any provision for other than in this motion. I don't see anything in the ordinance that requires an applicant to put something into a trust such as this. It says I'm reading 13.17. An applicant may request an exception to the sidewalk requirement with the location of a particular parcel of land is such that the sidewalk would cause undue hardship or serve no useful purpose or be a detriment to safety. This clearly, if they had to put in a sidewalk, they couldn't put it in on the property they own, because for one thing, I think that's owned by, I think, who is it that has a,
Buckeye.
Buckeye, yeah, Buckeye has an easement, and they won't let sidewalks go in. And, so I really don't see where this trust language is coming from, to put it into a trust. McCandless Transportation District Trust, what authorizes us to be able to force them to put it into a trust?
Sounds like that we need an ordinance if we're gonna do that.
And yeah, and you would wanna get, in this case, you would wanna get the neighbors involved that say they agree to this thing, and they would be willing to put up their money to have it,
So our goal tonight in reviewing this agenda is to decide if we want this on the agenda or not. So we're not really discussing the content of this, because that's what we would do next week. But unless you just totally want to
unless we
delete
wanna-
it, or unless you completely want to change it, the debate on this is really not tonight. It's just, do we want this on the agenda or do we not want this on the agenda?
Well-
I was just saying we have to have something in the blank. We can't
Oh, yeah,
send this,
I
that's
see
my
that.
point.
But, I mean, we wanna approve the land development application, it's only for, two art rooms. And, changing of a canopy to, we wanna approve that. But I don't wanna see this, that application encumbered with this language about the trust. But I would like to see them, improve the path somewhat. Cause,
Greg, excuse me for interrupting, but what neighbors are you talking about? You said would have to get the neighbors involved. What-
well, they're talking about, we can't put, Cumberland would be, the place the sidewalk would go up, and they can't put it on the property that the
Right, I
school
know
owns.
that, yeah.
He's
because
talking
of-
about the duplexes on the northern side of Cumberland.
Yeah, I'm talking about those.
But why
people.
would that have anything to do with the school property?
The
It doesn't, and that's
The
my
school
point.
the school is supposed to give us a price
Right.
on what it would cost them to put it on the other side.
On the
There's no
south side.
saying that we're going to put it on the other side. The school is giving us a cost of what it would cost if they were putting it on flat property. If they were putting it on, so I think what you're saying, Greg, we're not talking about the school or us forcing anyone to have sidewalks on their property
Right.
over there. We're just, instead of making the school pay for the extreme cost of excavating the hill and going through all that, we're just getting a bid on, or an estimate on what it would cost if it was a normal situation.
Yeah, and there's nothing that authorizes that.
Mr. Solicitor, are we out of our domain by asking people to put this money into a trust that hasn't been, there's no ordinance for? There's no ordinance for?
But we have a sidewalk
They
ordinance.
can't put a sidewalk there.
Yeah, but
They
this,
cannot put a sidewalk in because, well, for one reason, the Buckeye has the easement. And for
Right.
another reason, they have to move so much
ground.
dirt.
what we were trying to do is, in lieu of a sidewalk, allowing people, because we're trying to become, we have sidewalk districts. So
Right.
we're trying to have, but there are some places in southwestern Pennsylvania, you cannot put a sidewalk. So what we're saying is, everyone has a responsibility to contribute to a sidewalk, whether one can structurally go there or not. So what we're trying to say, and maybe we can't say it, or maybe we need an ordinance, maybe we need to change something, but what we are saying is that if you had flat property and you could put in 10 feet of sidewalk for $10, but you can't, then we're asking that business, that company, that entity, give that $10 into the sidewalk fund, part of the sidewalk trust, to establish sidewalks in other areas.
What is the authorization for the Town of McCandless Transportation District Fund? What is
it?
It says right here, the Town of McCandless Transportation District Fund. What is the enabling legislation
an ordinance. We have an ordinance that created the district that encompasses both sides of McKnight Road from Cumberland to past, basically to the Vincentian Collaborative System Services property line, and over to down on Duncan Avenue and all of Babcock Boulevard from Whitley Drive to Babcock, almost to the intersection of Babcock and Corporate. So the rough boundaries are shown on the map here. So
But the question is, do we have authority to make people put money in that?
the authorities that created that district, and that district is allowed to receive and use money in that fund and receive, Gavin and I talked about this a little bit on Friday, to receive funds for capital projects. The sidewalks would fit under that, depending on the cost of the sidewalk. I mean, certainly this would. But I think what the point is that what's the trigger that says that council can ask or dictate this trade-off, and say, you know, since you can't put them here, you have to put them in this transportation district fund. The transportation district fund is there to receive it, but there has to be some mechanism that.
And there is no trigger?
I'm not aware of a trigger. I'm aware of that we can, again, receive it, but I don't have a trigger in the ordinance. Bruce, are you aware of any trigger?
No, only that we can ask.
Now, when they came to us, the school district came to us, they were requesting, what are they, what's it called? Not a variance, but just. Modification, because it was so much. Now.
Yeah, because, well, for one thing, Buckeye has an easement, and the thing, and Buckeye wouldn't let them put sidewalks.
They're talking about this, they're
But
not
we're
even talking about the
They
sidewalk.
had to come to us because it's so much footage change, so we have to approve that. So when they came to us for our approval over these changes, we said, we like these approvals, but what we'd like you to do, since you can't put in a sidewalk and there's not then, is to put some money into this. Are we allowed to do that?
So if push came to shove, we could enforce our ordinance and make them install this $5 million sidewalk.
And we don't want to
No,
make
we
them
don't want
install
to.
it. We would like them to contribute some money to the sidewalk fund to go
But if
somewhere.
we wanted to, we could make them follow our ordinance. Otherwise, they'd have to, maybe they could apply for a variance, but short of that, we could enforce this. And this would be a alternative that both sides could live with.
But you couldn't do it because of the Buckeye.
Well, couldn't they do,
That's,
Buckeye pipeline's there and they won't let you build it.
well, couldn't they do like a setback from the
They
pipeline then?
could.
Certainly. There's
So let's say it's
always a way.
30 feet, then you can go another 10 feet
This is
off.
one of the most severe slopes to try to put a sidewalk that we've encountered. This is a rough, this is a
Well,
rough,
they paved
to
roads.
put it right where, on this side of the road, it's almost, it'd be extremely expensive.
And we had discussions with them about putting money into this fund and their
We,
They
apparent
didn't seem to
willingness to
object
do
last
that.
week.
well,
even at $10 a
back-
foot, this is a $25,000 sidewalk.
This is what?
Even at $10 a foot, this is a $25,000 sidewalk according to the measurements on Google Maps.
How much was the
About
cost?
500 feet, 5 feet
How much was
wide.
the cost of their improvement? They were-
Isn't it
18 million.
18
Right, so we're
million.
complaining about
it's not
adding
much,
25,000 to 18 million because we like the school?
Well, we have to make sure that it's in our right to do it. That's what we have
That's all
to.
it's
Within our right to
It's within our
force a
rights.
sidewalk.
Exactly.
That would be
yeah.
my thought. If we have the right to force a sidewalk, then this alternative, if not expressly authorized by any ordinance, would be permissible on the basis that it's a resolution of a potentially disputed claim. And
Okay,
if they're willing to go along with it, I'd be comfortable with it as well.
all right.
And I believe that Greg has proposed an alternative that if both sides are comfortable with that, that is something they could also do in lieu of making that contribution.
If they were to make a sidewalk that was guaranteed, which I don't personally like, guaranteed that the public could access and was maintained year round, because they said that they don't maintain these rough paths, I would be, even though I don't like the idea of anyone being able to walk behind the school within 100 feet of a playground area. You know, that might be a slight option to it, but, I mean, good grief, that sounds like a potential
Those
for
paths
real
are on their
problems.
school property? That,
Yeah, right.
Yeah, multiple.
well, but then that's their responsibility anyway. Why
Yeah.
should we?
They don't maintain them during the
But
winter.
that's not
But
for
I was
us.
gonna say.
Okay, well
should
then we don't have a
enforce those.
sidewalk in the
Yeah.
front.
Then, or money toward a sidewalk somewhere else, which is what
Well,
this is saying,
where
I
else,
think.
where else?
Right on here.
Where-
We
where?
got a gap in the sidewalk from this corner halfway through this property here.
So is it, does the town of McCandless Transportation District Fund cover that?
What, the gap over here?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, well,
Okay.
all right, so we have to put it,
Where?
I mean, that's one place I was thinking of that could use a sidewalk.
I thought it also covered part of this down there on Babcock by Executive Drive. Didn't we discuss that last year or so?
The transportation district?
Yeah.
Again,
This, where the sidewalk funds could go into.
What
think,
about along McKnight Road?
Well, that's,
'Cause
we,
there's so
we
many
just
people
have
who
only
walk
one little
that.
transportation district right now. We need to make
Yeah.
more transportation districts so we can have more flexibility, but that's all we have right now.
Right.
It would probably, yeah, we have talked informally, the planning commission has talked somewhat formally about a sidewalk plan. Bruce, you can help me out.
Yes, we have a sidewalk plan.
And the steering committee also is talking about not necessarily a sidewalk plan, but a connected, possibly bike walking lanes, so some connectedness that isn't a sidewalk.
We are on the cusp of having not to be over dramatic, a massive response to intermodality for bicycle use, walking and so forth, interconnectivity for sure. So it just seems that, you know, we're gonna keep getting an occasional development like this pop up.
Can this be
We don't have,
reworded?
again, we don't have I don't think, the only mechanism we have is, but I think you're right, Chris, is that if council wants to force the issue and say, put the sidewalk in. And they say, we can't. Well, you have to prove to us you can't, so, and where are we going? And at some point, there's gonna have to be some kind of decision made. This is sort of an imminent solution. Modify the sidewalk, meaning it's not gonna be put here, it's gonna be put someplace
Right.
else, and give us a reasonable amount of money to see that sidewalk gets put in a good place under this coming plan that we have.
Can we reword the motion that it doesn't have to go into the town transportation district fund, into the sidewalk?
That's any mechanism we have to take the money. We can't
We
just
can't
take
do
the
it into
money,
the
put it in.
sidewalk district? or-
Well, the closest companion to, we don't have, I don't think we have anything legally in the general fund that says we can receive money for a sidewalk. But we do have this transportation district that was created many years ago, it's still in existence, that,
So but we could put it into this transportation district fund and then
hold it.
add transportation district later and
Yeah.
still use it for a different area.
yeah, we have been carrying in the budget $297,000. I did it again here for this year's budget, and we've talked about the Babcock Boulevard project. That's our seed money.
Which is in
Yeah.
this district.
And so you add this to it, this is, so, you know, that's why, when I talked to Gavin about this Friday, it made some sense as the recipient. This is where we're heading, at least. But it would be really clear for everybody's sake that council had a policy stated about in lieu of payment.
And also, should we have it marked out as to like when the sidewalks would go in? Only because what we get a quote on and what they put money in now, in 2 or 3 years, you know, is it gonna increase by 20%?
Yeah, but we can't tell somebody in 2 or 3 years when we bother to do it, it's gonna cost them.
No, I'm saying, couldn't we decide that we have to have it done within a year or so, like, you know?
We just have to get busy and get them in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, we're just sitting on this money, why
Yeah.
sit and wait
Right,
when we should get
definitely
someone?
cheaper to do it
depreciating.
now.
Yeah.
Well, how much money do you have in that sidewalk fund?
200.
Well, it's actually a transportation fund.
A transportation.
Sidewalks part, 297,000 is the fund balance. But, council's technique over the years has been to, suspend the current installation of sidewalks until such time as council directs that they be installed.
Right,
So, I don't
well,
know.
that's if they're doable, right?
Right, that's right, if they're doable, so then that's the next piece we need is that if it's undoable, then, putting that money someplace else is that, again, I think you still need some
Yeah.
kind of directive that you can give to
Right.
people.
And, I mean, it seems like we want connectivity, and the connectivity are the informal paths from, McKnight Elementary to, that area from McKnight Elementary to, McCandless Crossing East.
But you're talking about connectivity feet away from kids playing. It passes the back, that when we
Well,
looked
hardly,
at that
the only
plan.
one that uses it are the kids that are local kids that go to,
And Steve, the kids are never out there playing without supervision.
right.
Right, but
exactly.
if we had something terribly stupid happen, like one of these school shootings, 3 elementary school teachers aren't gonna be able to stop someone where we've just created a path that we've meant for people to use as connectivity for the entire town.
Even if you had a regular sidewalk, how would 3 teachers prevent shooting from there?
Right,
Well, because if we had a regular sidewalk, they would be able to, on that particular spot, it would be through a hill, across a parking lot, into a building, where in the spot where
Well,
Greg is talking about,
what if
it's,
the kids are walking along that sidewalk? How?
well, you wouldn't, but you're probably talking about 5 kids walking on the sidewalk at a time instead of 150 playing in the playground.
I guess my concern is it's going through the woods, there's no lighting.
It's not going through the
Well,
woods
it's 100 yards.
far,
I'm
it's,
ta- You know, I mean,
it's going past the entire
Are
back
you
and the
talking
entire
about
playground.
the path or the
path,
sidewalk?
The path.
The path.
So, you know, you mean, the lack of lighting,
I think it's
I
their
just don't
property
see
and they
it.
can maintain it or not maintain it, but we're talking about a public sidewalk here that
I
will
agree.
benefit the entire
Right.
community.
I agree, so
We
it's
can't
not,
force
They
them to
want-
do
And if
anything
they,
with the
I
path.
think it would be good for them to keep that path,
Sure, it
because
would
it
be.
keeps the kids off of
Right.
Cumberland, it gets them to where they wanna go, but I think that's their responsibility
right,
and that they
right,
should do that.
exactly.
But I don't think that has anything to do with the sidewalk, I
Yeah.
think it's a separate issue.
Yeah, I
So,
don't think we have
do we
any-
want this
any-
on here or not?
Yes,
We want it on there,
I
and what
do.
do we wanna strike? Do we wanna strike the elect to improve or the paths? Do you wanna strike that last sentence? Or do we wanna keep it as it is and change it next week?
A quick question, as I recall, didn't, Rob Gartner say he was gonna take this back to
Right.
the
Right,
school
to
board
the
about.
school.
to get
right, and he was
full
going to bring
authority.
back,
And it's supposed to come back to us, wasn't it?
Right, so
But we
he,
have to give him a sum to take back to them.
no,
No,
they were
they're
supposed to be
supposed
bringing
to-
us an
they
estimate
should have
back.
an estimate,
They-
yeah.
They were supposed to
Yes.
bring us the estimate of what it was gonna cost them to go 500 and, I think 35, it might have been 85, but 500 and some feet on a flat, on an easy area to do it.
because where we left it was somewhere between the $30 a foot that's
Right.
becoming an old number that, our engineers used to use, and as concrete prices and installation prices go up, Rob was talking about numbers like $12 a square foot.
Right,
So
and
I'm
you were talking
$30
linear
running foot,
foot.
a 5-foot sidewalk is 30, so take that.
That's wrong though, but yeah.
It's high, it's gonna be higher, so
Right.
he's supposed to give us that number.
I did it at 50. At 50 a running foot, we're talking about around $25,000.
Okay.
When we're talking about $25,000 added to an $18 million project, we're talking about hair clippings. It's not even,
You think they might go willingly?
I would hope, I would, if it was me.
Well, it's that or it's put it up the hill and
Right.
it's, you know,
I'll
Well,
smile,
next
but I
time.
won't wave. Alright, I'll smile, but I won't wave. Alright, I will not wave the
We
sidewalk
can't, we
requirement.
can't have
Right.
this in here
I
though about
totally
the
have-
path.
It's an old
Can we?
irritant.
We can't force them
No,
to
we
take
can't.
care of the, I mean,
So
we
I
can't
would
leave that in there.
probably strike the elect
No,
to,
it's an either or. We don't force them to take care of the path. If they
I
take care of
personally
the
don't
path-
want a path that close to
If they
kids.
take care of the path, then, they don't have to put the money in.
Yeah, but I don't wanna give them that option.
yeah, I think they already have to do whatever they do
Yeah,
with their
that's
path.
their, should we just leave this out until we hear from them? And then if Rob says
I
whatever,
thought we were
then
going to
we can
approve
send-
the motion if we heard from them, which we are going to hear from them next week. They said
Are we?
they
Should we
said we
wait
would.
until we have these details
That's
and then
what
we
I'm
can
thinking.
go?
Well, they're supposed
I
to bring
would-
them next week.
Next week, what, at the
Monday.
meeting?
Monday.
Right, aren't they?
Should we
Yes.
know this
Be
before we
nice to
make
have them in
our,
your packet Thursday.
Well, he's
Well,
going
we
to
have
bring them, I
To
thought,
have discussion, you have to have a motion.
right.
So what do we wanna have as a motion?
I want, this is a motion, I prefer not having the back sidewalk maintained. I mean, I
The back
prefer it
path-
was
the back
maintained.
path maintained.
Back path.
But,
whatever.
I would prefer it's maintained, but I don't prefer that as a proper means of going from Cumberland to,
Okay, so
Left.
after the or leave out, what are we saying, everyone?
I think leave that last part out.
The last three sentences.
Right.
and the
Where it
town.
says, or in lieu of the said pavement, get rid of everything but after that?
Yep.
I need lot of nods.
yes.
Are
We
we
got
saying a period after the words land?
4
development?
nods.
Yes,
So stop it at land develop?
Mhm.
Okay, stop it there.
well, what if they maintain it and we give them a credit for maintaining it and improving it? And they take a sum less the amount of your sidewalk estimate of, say, 25,000, and they do maintain it and improve it, and that's, their estimate of that is $5,000, and therefore they would only give $20,000 to the district fund.
And what happens if things become so bad that all schools across the nation say, if you're not a student, you're off the property? Then we've just given them
You're not
5,000.
leaving to go all out, to go on.
I was
Well,
gonna
it's-
say, even
it's
to use
only-
the track and
You
stuff,
are.
you have to check in through the office.
They do it all the time. People are using those tracks nonstop. They're using
Yeah,
the-
but you have to check in through the office if you're doing during the school hours.
I would rather
During
have something that
school
all the
hours.
public
Signs up.
can use.
I agree.
right.
Yeah, how are you gonna distinguish?
I mean,
it? Oh,
the school should be
Maintaining it,
maintaining it, and they
Yeah.
should be doing it out of their own concern for their own students.
right.
Yeah.
It's on
If
their
they aren't,
property.
it's their fault that they're willing to endanger their students by not maintaining a path
And if
to a.
someone's injured on an unmaintained path, they're responsible for that. So. Period after that, is that where we're at? And Greg can bring all this up next week too, you know, but we just have to have something to get on this agenda. We gotta keep moving here.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
do that, period, development. And
Move to adopt, all right, I'm moving on. Move to adopt ordinance 1479 as requested by Beryl, that's everything we did tonight. Safety, move to adopt an ordinance, the weapons ordinance, everybody has a copy of that. There were a couple of last minute changes. We need to, when you have changes that you wanna add to an ordinance, we need to bring that here and to make those, and everybody agree on those changes. We can't keep having everybody add. They're killing our attorneys and they're killing our attorney fees, okay? So if you wanna add something or change something, we need to bring that here and make those changes here together.
What were you saying? What were you saying?
I'm saying that each person can't add their own changes. They need to be discussed and agreed upon as a group. And sending, me sending my changes to the solicitor, you sending your changes to the solicitor is really not the best way to do it. We need to agree on my changes, we need to agree on your changes as a group. And then, so the solicitor's not changing, and we're getting 4 and 5, different,
And when you get here, it changes again.
Yeah.
right, and then we don't know, I have no idea what is in here, because it's changed 2 or 3 times, we can't keep up. So, I would like to ask you all to please bring, when you have changes to an ordinance, to bring them here, that's
But
part
where's here?
where we are right now, in a
Oh, so
public forum.
we only bring them, changes to an ordinance at a meeting?
If you wanna change an ordinance, then it needs to be discussed among all of us, don't we think?
I think,
Yeah.
yes.
And Madam President, for clarity, and I'm probably the root of this problem, because I asked questions, I wanted to understand the language. My goal was to not change the intent of the ordinance, but simply to apply corrective language. So I did call Bruce to inquire what was the discussion surrounding a couple of items. Now, I'm sorry that got taken to this level, because I did intend to discuss it tonight with the entire group, and I'd like to still do that, if there's time permits to go through this,
But are we
Understand.
understanding
I
that it's not
certainly
fair
agree
to
that-
to
not
our
at all.
solicitor for
Not at all.
everyone to be adding their changes,
Certainly.
and then it come down as a final draft, and it's, and staff, it's
Right.
just cost and time prohibitive. So if we have the ordinance here and something you wanna make some changes, let's do it here in front of everybody and I'll discuss it. So, excuse me, is there something that we need to change on our, weapons ordinance?
So I would like to discuss a couple of the items, Madam President.
Okay.
I had recommended that under item 2B, it refers to an experienced range operator. I did some research since our last meeting to understand this. Could not find that terminology anywhere. The language that's used in the industry is a safety officer. And so my thought was to suggest to this council that we replace range operator with range safety officer.
And that is what is in the permit that Impacts has, safety officer.
That was a great catch.
That was conformed with it.
Our original one had operating officer, we changed it to safety officer, we changed it back to operating, back to safety.
That's the term of art.
Can we put currently certified?
Oh, of course, yeah.
I
No,
like
no
that.
other language, only changing operator to
Well,
safety.
I think
Or
that's
just
in there.
changing operator, yeah.
Okay,
We already
What,
have with
to
a valid
safety officer?
certification,
Yes,
okay,
Safety
it's already
Okay.
there.
It's already there.
okay, I just wanna, I don't know where the fourth copy of this is. I'm sure it's in here somewhere. Were there any other changes that anyone wanted to make?
yes, item F,
Okay,
under storage. And again, I asked the question, what is the intent? Item F, storage of firearms and ammunition when the range is closed. This suggests, the way it's written, suggests that everything from the retail displays and the cases and everything have to be somehow put into a large vault. I think the intent was to treat this no differently than we would treat a sporting goods store, where there'd be security, locked glass cases wherever they're displayed, and so I would ask that we would consider rewriting that to treat the storage of these things in the retail area of any range as a retail establishment.
I have a suggestion, add 4 words after the word ammunition, not for retail sales. Firearms and ammunition, not for retail sales, shall be stored. How about that?
I'm not a wordsmith, that would.
does that make
It
sense to
certainly,
you?
it certainly
Okay.
does, it certainly does.
Pardon?
Is that under F?
Yeah,
F,
right
yes.
after the word ammunition, that's my suggestion, and our paid wordsmiths, professional wordsmiths can see if they like that language as much as I did.
Not,
I didn't really like
where
it.
is it?
I thought it was good.
Not for retail sale.
Okay.
And that was.
So I guess one of my
Yes.
concerns with that would be what would be the requirements for storing firearms and ammunition that are not for retail sale then?
I
Right
think
here.
we're cool.
That's what's-
Gun safe, locking device, etc. That means, say if the range operator has 5 handguns that they, let people use to demonstrate or practice, and 6 cases of ammunition. And those should be in a safe or some other secure area.
Right.
That as is said in this ordinance. Otherwise, somebody has some guns for sale, and they're in a nice case and so forth, they should have to take those off the shelf and put them in a safe
I got
every
you.
night.
Does that make sense, Council? That's
Yeah,
right.
the ideology of this was there is an area that meets these requirements, but it doesn't deal with the retail part of it, it only deals with the shooting range part of it.
And there are other
So
retail
we're
stores
good.
in town.
Retail stores galore that have,
No.
do not meet this requirement.
You don't even want to put, handle them that often.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? Any other changes?
Item G.
G?
Again, definition of words, language, not changing the intent. All shooters must complete, it says, an orientation program given in accordance with the Pennsylvania Game Commission. I researched, I could not find a range safety program offered by the Pennsylvania Game Commission.
Millville Sportsman's Club does it all the time.
It's not a range safety club, program. It's a
I
hunter
believe it
safety
is.
program.
Right, but I believe it handles that, or at least it did when I was there.
But it doesn't, it just
35
says, it
years
just
ago.
says an orientation, it doesn't say range safety, it just says an orientation program.
And that's, I think, quite frankly, my issue, because I've gone to many firearms ranges. There is always a safety orientation specific to every range and every facility. And I think that was the intent of this language, because no matter how experienced you are with the firearm, when you go to a new facility and a new range, you must learn the rules. You must know where that gun can be loaded and unloaded. You must know the procedures. You must know how you bring that firearm into the facility. Some require locked cases. There needs to be, I believe, a safety orientation for all first-time users of the range before they can use it.
You mean like how they have it at the state game lands, for example? They've got a rule list, a billboard of
They do.
the rule. Yeah, that's what. Or you think the people need to take an actual class of that?
The first time that somebody goes to that range, I think they should have a safety orientation program.
So, and
Well,
what Bill's suggesting is that what we have here
To
isn't
review those
necessarily,
rules.
it's not necessarily wrong,
Right.
but he wants the addition of specific to that range, rules specific to that range. How do you handle the targets? Where do you stand? How do you? how
Right,
do you
I know what
handle
he's
your
talking
weapon?
about. I've been to enough ranges that I've seen, that different ranges are different.
Mhm.
But here's the rule book, or here's the list of rules. A normal person could read those rules in 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
So then what's the purpose of this language?
Well, what they do,
See, I'm
if I
missing the
can use,
intent, and I may be confused.
if I can use impacts as an example,
Mhm.
you have to go through an 8-minute video, which I believe was developed by which was definitely developed by a national organization.
Mhm.
And you've got to sit and watch it. And then you've got to sign off that I have watched this video. They give you give you an iPad or a Pro, and you sit and watch the video in front of somebody with the people sitting there.
Which-
So, but what you're saying is, in addition to that, general orientation to weaponry and how to handle weaponry and how to shoot and those kind of things.
He's
You want-
saying,
Yeah,
I'm
he's saying
it's-
site specific.
Does it already
Safety-
say that? It says on the site at the end.
That says before they're
Allowed
permitted
to
to discharge.
Well, it says
on
you have
the
to
site.
complete an orientation on.
All shooters must complete an orientation program given in accordance with the Pennsylvania Game Commission or nationally recognized certification, as well as site orientation.
I think that's what Bill's saying.
Is that what you're saying? And
Right.
site orientation?
I think the orientation program should be specific to the facility and the range.
The wording I came up with, and it's,
Seems like overkill.
guys have to fix it, Gavin, or Chris. Sorry, Gavin, I keep calling you Chris.
I think this is really important. I think this
All right,
is
take the mask
important.
off, yeah.
So what I wanted to say was, with such orientation being specific to the range being permitted.
That gets me there. That's,
I do like the idea of them kind of going over, I don't know anything about guns, but it seems to me it would be a little review of, you point down, whatever else. And would that be part of the 8
That
minutes?
would be part of the regular, yeah.
Well, okay, so I'm hearing you say the regular one is okay.
a safety
And then-
orientation, yes.
Right.
Safety orientation, but a site-specific one too.
Right, the safety
Incorporated
orientation.
into it, it's the same safety orientation,
Right.
but it's tailored to
Typically-
that facility and range.
Typically, you'll see things like you're only allowed to load your guns in this area. You're only what Bill's trying to add.
Yes, sir.
And most sites that I've ever been to have those rules. Some will say you can only have a maximum of 10 bullets in your gun at one time. Even if you're only shooting bang, 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 there are guns that can hold 100
And
bullets.
that's different
at
the
the time that they're doing that.
Steve understands.
How do you want to change it?
I think most sites do it.
I'll certainly
I
I think
defer.
a new condition needs to be added. I and that should be easy enough, just the site-specific training.
I think it should be incorporated to this,
My
actually.
concern would be is that the current G is basically saying you need to have a history with guns, whether it's you've taken a course or you have a valid hunting permit or a gun permit before you shoot. So you need to have some background to use. All shooters must have a background to use it. Your new requirement would be first-time users need to undergo some site-specific training. So to shoot at a certain place, you need to have the background, either by getting your gun permit and going forward and getting your site-specific orientation for your first time through.
So this.
And trying to mix that all together.
So if that's the intent, I would disagree with that, because
Okay.
people go to firing ranges specifically to learn those skills that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And this may shock you, but you can get a gun permit without ever firing a gun. It is nothing more than a background check in Allegheny County, folks. So, that doesn't work for me. I think, I certainly don't want to limit people from going to the range because they never, it's a chicken and egg thing. Well, how do I get experience with a firearm if I can't go to a safe firing range under, instruction? Which we've already required in all of these regs.
I agree, I was just gonna add it as
Okay.
H, just for, what I see is to avoid confusion.
Or we could
Something
add
like-
G1 and 2, keep it all under shooter requirements.
You get the idea.
Same idea, yeah, great.
Look at it. I think,
Item number 4.
I had one on I there under customer safety, and that was the applicant and safety officer shall prohibit and shall be responsible for ensuring that none of its customers below, because the applicant's not gonna be there all the time, but a safety officer is there all the time. If that's okay.
who's the applicant?
The applicant would be like impacts.
Impacts.
So
Oh, okay.
impacts is
Oh, I see.
responsible for none of these things happening, but the applicant, I don't know if that would be in a one-person applicant or a whole company applicant, but
All under customer safety.
Yeah, yeah, or I was gonna
The
say-
applicant or staff.
or safety officer. And safety officer shall prohibit and shall be responsible.
The applicant shall prohibit and the safety officer shall ensure that none of its customers. Why do we have responsible there? I think that's indirect. I think if you wanna add safety officer shall ensure that none of the customers, and take out the shall be responsible. That's indirect. Doesn't make sense to me. I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
Solicitor?
Whatever makes it stronger,
Yeah.
whatever
I
makes
think-
it stronger.
I think you just directly say they ensure that this is it. Sure. Okay.
Okay, whatever
Thank
makes
you.
it stronger, okay.
Yep.
So.
And
two
that would be
people.
the same for customer safety in both categories, both the throwing weapons and the firearms. I think that, and while we're on that, item 3 down below is a range operator there as well, that should be corrected to,
You did find another one.
item 3B, yeah, same thing.
Missed it. Still missing it. There he is.
I think
Chris,
the changes-
did you find that one?
Yeah.
Three B.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that.
Last item, and that is item 4. It reads, the police chief may add additional conditions if he or she deems additional conditions are necessary. In some ways, this is kind of an abdicating of our responsibility to add those conditions. However, I do believe this is serious enough that we should give the police chief some license to ensure safety. I would ask that we consider adding just the term reasonable conditions as opposed to adding conditions, and just to ensure that that he has the license he needs to ensure safety in a reasonable way, not in a completely discretionary way from us.
I had the opportunity to talk with the chief, he thought the reasonable request. And so what I would suggest is, once we reword that we submit it back to him and for his comment, make sure it was out right.
Anything else?
Good. Thank you for listening to me.
Okay. That's what we do. We collaborate together, so we come up with something better than each person individually. Okay.
I have to go.
At this point,
I have to go.
Okay. Okay. All right, citizen council have anything else to say about that? Citizen comment, I don't know, yeah. It's dog back.
Thank you. I'm Debbie Sagan from Parkland Drive. Thank you for hearing me. And first of all, thank you for drafting this. It was apparently long overdue. And I thought, Mr. Kirk, thank you for, you obviously have some background and have looked over this very carefully. And I just looked at it briefly. And this is obvious. I'm sorry, but I'm asking some obvious questions that you probably already considered. But since it's an annual permit and since we already have something in operation in the town, when the permit is reviewed, will the operators that are already in existence be required to meet these standards, correct?
it's my understanding they already do.
The answer is
But
yes. The
if
answer
they
is
don't?
yes. The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. Okay, great. And I was also concerned about that F, where you said stored in an acceptable, not for retail sales, sounds great to me. And I still have an issue with that word acceptable. It sounds sort of vague. Who's going to decide if it's acceptable? Maybe, I thought of another word, but I didn't write it down. Wordsmithing there, maybe our solicitor would consider that acceptable. But that was one thing I had a question about. And still under shooter requirements, G, as there was a lot of discussion about that. I mean, that, to me, that still sounds like anybody could walk in and shoot. And then the nationally recognized organization, I know that was changed, but still that's pretty vague. Wasn't there something in our ordinance about having this be members only club? You had to have some kind of a membership? Does anybody recall that? And, okay. I really appreciate the specific to every range. I think that, you have to be specific and get instruction there, but I'm still vacillating, and maybe, again, to the solicitor's point, just a comment, not a question, I guess, at this point. That seems very vague for the shooter requirements to me at this point. I think there should be a little bit more vetting of some sort, and I thought there was something about members only, there was going to be a members only club to shoot there or something. I thank you for the alcohol prohibition, of course, no alcohol. It says on the site, but are there any ordinances as far as restaurants or taverns, how far away they can be from the site? I don't think there are, right? Okay, and I think, Ms. Zachary, you brought up customer safety with the word shall be responsible for ensuring, would a stronger word be must at that point? I also had a question on J and K. J, activities, can they still hold activities outside the range? like in the parking lot or something? Or would that something there be qualified to be indoors? Everything has to be indoors. And K, hours of operation, that sounds seasonal to me, sunset changes with the seasons. I don't know if that's historical, but that is something that jumped out at me also. And thank you for changing the range operator and also not only the applicant, but adding the employees as well. And the field sobriety test is a very good idea. I do believe that these people will have to be trained in field sobriety, as it says under D. You were talking about number 4, with approval of council, I would add there maybe. I know you said you gave the police chief some range there by adding reasonable, but perhaps you would have the police chief notify council or have approval of council if there were any changes to the conditions. Okay, thank you very much for hearing me out.
Thank you. We changed these fines back to $5 and $1.
That's being repealed.
That's the part that's being repealed.
Right below it says it's being repealed.
By who?
You're gonna repeal
That's-
that.
This is the section, this is how it exists now.
That was the 1960
And we're
price.
repealing it.
Okay.
The 2018 price is back deeper in the resolution.
Okay, I thought we did, and I
Yeah,
thought,
we
here
did.
they are again.
And that's just, that's
Any other
that's
comments?
for history.
Okay. We are through with, are we through with it? Hold on, let me look. The tentative agenda.
Your recreation committee?
And just go through the liaison.
Let me see yours.
I think she's with the business meeting, we're finishing the agenda.
Here. Is that it? Recreation Committee?
Yeah.
To authorize, to adopt resolution authorizing acceptance of the grant that we got for $30,000. Unfinished business, new business, public comment, agenda. Okay? Are we okay with it? Thank you. We okay with that, agenda? Okay, all right, good. We're gonna start to go over our, boards and commissions. I'd like to start with the Northland Public Library, since you have so patiently waited all of this time. Thank you so much. We had asked, that a representative from Northland come because there's a little mix-up in the budget. It's important that we know what we're talking about when we're deciding these things. So they gave us another week to kind of look over it and see if we had any questions at all about the library's budget. So do we have any? I had one question, and that is on the budget. It said 2018, under the 2018 was your roof and your HVAC.
Okay, yeah.
Does that mean that was paid for with that budget? Because I didn't think you got the money for that yet.
No, that was when we had originally planned to do it. It's not done yet.
Okay, so, well, that should be
This
in
is gonna
another
need to be
place then,
revised.
right?
Well, right, we've been pushing things out as they have not been done on schedule, so that one needs to be pushed out.
Okay, so
That's
we
actually gonna
still
happen
don't have an
in
accurate
2019.
budget then here? Here's the,
Well, yeah, everything that's on there is you know, expected to be done. But for some of these things that we had planned on doing in 2018, we're not gonna be able to get done. Our original goal was to have all 3 of those projects done before winter, but because we were applying for the grants and looking at different options on some of the projects, we just ran out of time.
So did you guys get the skylights repaired?
No, that's gonna be done when the roof is done.
Okay.
And all that will be done in the spring.
so you didn't get anything done under your capital budget? I mean, I'm looking down the list and
Probably,
no. Well, according to this, I mean,
not for 2018, no.
Not for
Yeah, the things that we had planned to do in 2018
being pushed into early 2019.
Anyone have any other
How often do you guys have to do the repairs for the skylights?
That skylight is original to the building, so it's 40 years old. I think it was sealed one,
Okay.
maybe 20 years ago.
anything else? All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, planning commission.
There's three items on the agenda, including a site review for Blazer Drive. And the other two things were the things that we're going over on the public hearing, the changing, put the indoor batting cages on the Roche and the outdoor art, art facilities in McKnight, yeah.
Was there anything additional to your report?
No.
How about the zoning hearing board?
Zoning hearing board, the decision was made, handed down by Alan Truckrow on the get-go near Blazer. That's near Barrow on Route 19. And I send you all the decision, and it's really good for conditional use, because that was a specific exception, and the law is pretty much the same. I would call your attention to item 8 in Alan's decision. You might want to check it out. You've got the I sent it to you by email. And the only other thing is currently is a development going on Pine Creek near Minor Road, Pine Creek and Minor Road, and that's was continued by the zoning hearing board.
Okay. Sanitary authority.
Just briefly, the authority's working on their 2019 budgets. They're also reviewing their tap-in fee schedule. That's done on a regular basis. That's the fee that's assessed to new development as they tap into the system, and it's reviewed regularly to ensure that it is capturing all of the capital costs associated with the capacity that's being used. That concludes my report, unless there are any questions on the minutes.
Nope, very detailed as always. Franklin Park Ambulance Authority.
We did hold a meeting last month, and more importantly, Saturday, October 13th, the Ambulance Authority did have their first kickoff meeting in Franklin Park for strategic planning. Also of note, they will be looking at, I believe, a 3% fee schedule increase this year due to the rising costs. And one other note, they are now accepting credit cards for subscriptions, donations, and payments, and that will be added to the authority's website. We hope that'll encourage more participation by our community. That concludes my report, unless there's any questions.
North Hills Council of Government. Is there any meetings at all?
The Managers Committee meeting, the first Friday of this month, 2 key items were discussed. The right-of-way ordinances that we have to govern the wireless. And then we've acted on that, as other municipalities are in the process of doing too.
So we sent our letter.
We did the next day, last Tuesday, and other communities noted that they were doing the same thing, and the other comment is on the stormwater, collaborative nature of stormwater among the municipalities. There was an initiative in Gertie's Run, EAC's talked about that, I think, a bit, and So, there's gonna be a meeting of the Stormwater Management Committee in the COG, coming up soon.
I think they just passed, didn't they just pass an ordinance about that? I was reading about that in the League of Municipalities reporter. They were talking about, I don't wanna speak to it, I can't remember all the details, but it was addressed of a law that was passed that allowed municipalities to bill for that, I think it was. You'll have to, was their summer edition, was that what it was? Okay, never mind. Okay, forget all of that. Anything else? All right. Joint rec,
Dormant till January.
MIDA,
On behalf of Mr. McKim, nothing to report.
okay. Volunteer Firefighter Steering Committee.
To add to my notes I sent to you guys earlier tonight, well, there's a few things. The training site that we talked about before, they're still looking at a few locations. And they're gonna take, the year of 2019 to plan and review details and come up with a detailed budget and everything, so they know what they're gonna get into, and then if they could possibly build something, it'd be 2020. So, and then this actually training site would become a public safety center, so EMS, police, and fire could all use it.
Is that something that they would lease out to other firefighting agencies?
I don't know, I mean, I guess they could. I mean, we did talk about possibly.
Smiling and not waving again?
We, I think that's part of, I don't wanna steal Carolyn's
No, go
thunder,
ahead.
but the strategic planning aspect of the companies and looking at strategically a number of issues, and certainly the utilization of the training center is one of them.
Mhm.
Okay. As a fund generator, possibly.
As some type of cooperative effort, sure,
Okay.
sure. You know, their challenges, I can't speak for them, because certainly their challenges with the county fire training center is accessibility because of the demand.
Oh, okay.
And so our firefighters, our first responders need to have first and as much access as they can.
Okay.
And I think they also said that they would also be able to do some trainings together.
Yeah.
So they would, you know, Ross and Hampton, it's just building the relationship, and so.
Anything else?
The next meeting is scheduled for February 12th, 2019, and everything else I sent to you guys in the email, so.
Okay, thank
Good.
you. Pittsburgh Community Development Corporation,
Dormant.
okay. Heritage Center,
Okay, there is information in the packet. They continue to work, we continue to work on the finance development, and that will be forthcoming.
I thought it looked really nice. They made a lot more additions than we even suggested, and I thought it was just even
Good.
more concise
I will
and
take
looked,
that back to them.
thought it looked real good.
They really are working hard.
It's clear.
Thank you.
EAC, we did our fall cleanup, which is our second cleanup that we did. Excuse me. Oh,
Community Day.
I was gonna go after you. That's okay.
I'm so sorry. No, go ahead, Community
Okay.
Day.
So
sorry.
the McAutumn Fest is this Saturday, 1 to 7:15.
Okay.
And are we gonna have a rain plan for fireworks the next day?
Well, the fireworks will go off under the contract if they can be shot off.
Okay.
Meaning, if it's a total rainout, then they'll come back the next day.
Okay.
If it's not a total rainout, if it's between showers, we
Like a
gotta,
drizzle.
yeah,
Mhm.
we have the
Keep your
occasional,
fingers
right now,
crossed.
right now the forecast, excuse me, is an occasional drizzle.
Yeah,
And so it would be between drizzles if that's what it comes to.
exactly. Okay.
Okay, good to
So
know.
that's that.
The band, a couple of the bands probably would cancel,
Mm-hmm.
because we're gonna have a stage, not the showmobile stage, it's not a covered stage, so, the one band said they would play in a drizzle, the other band said, sorry, you can't, so, that kind of thing.
Okay. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully we don't need a rain date. Okay, now the EAC.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
Sorry.
thank you. I appreciate you doing it. I usually check it off and I missed that. Our cleanup day was Saturday. We had almost 70 people show up. We had 25 people from the NA Key Club. I was really thrilled to see some of the young people stepping up and taking some leadership roles. We got 110 bags of trash. So that was really impressive. And I can probably talk about it since it's the EAC. It's down one more under the President's Report and Correspondence, and that is the EAC is has a project request. It's in your pack, and it's EAC 10 dated October 10th, 2018, and that is would begin now, and it would be when full report would come into June to look at the items that our project manager, when meeting with administration, to see what the EAC could do and work toward everybody working toward what they can do, and then coming back in June and seeing how far we've gotten. Okay, and then at that time we can say, hey, we have enough stuff for platinum, we have enough stuff for gold, we want to try platinum, or we're just all we can stand is gold. So, was there anything else with that thing? Okay, Carolyn, what personnel?
Nothing to report right now. Yeah, well, we haven't picked a date yet.
Right,
We're gonna try to have a meeting hopefully in November.
Okay. All right, the second thing under President's Report and Correspondence is to discuss a proclamation declaring October as National Bullying Prevention Month, and then voting on that and reading that proclamation October 25th. Did everyone?
Actually, October 25th was a companion item, is the Unity Day. Was another suggestion.
Okay.
So that's two, you're actually doing a twofer there, October being the month, anti-bullying month, and then Unity Day is October 25th. So you would declare that on October 22nd.
Okay.
And we should wear orange.
And you should wear orange on the 25th.
Okay.
25th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it represents for the
It's a
whole
symbol
bullying.
of unity.
Yeah.
Did anyone have any questions about that, or, okay, maybe we can add that to, that wasn't on the agenda for the 25th, I didn't think, was it?
No, not to be presumptuous.
Okay, I just remembered
Yep,
to
yep,
do that.
So we'll put it on.
Okay, the other, let's see, the other thing that I wanted to bring up under here was when we were at the Commissioners' Conference a couple of weeks ago, Savvy Citizen had a booth set up, and they had one of the big complaints that we heard from people in the steering committee is there's not enough to do in McCandless. There's not enough to do in McCandless. All these other towns have a lot of things going on, and sure enough, when the Paschik Group looked to see what other activities towns had compared to ours, it seems the surrounding areas have more activities than we have. So what I am trying to think about how to maybe help this, there's an electronic calendar, for a better word, that can be, the Savvy Citizen can embed onto our website, that we can list activities that are going on in the town. So instead of looking to see if St. Alexis is doing a coat drive, and to see what runners are doing in the park, and to see what the town is doing, what the EAC, it would be on a, you could click on our website. That also would get more traffic to our website also, so people can see what's going on in more areas than the town. So I had everyone who was there, please stop by and look at it. And the things are listed on a calendar, and then you click on them, and it sends you to the other person's website. So I talked to Savvy Citizen, and they said that they charge, I think they said 10 or 15% of what we normally pay now, which is pretty minimal, to add that to our website. So that doesn't add. John sends these events to Savvy, and then they send them out. So John would still send these events, but they would embed them on the calendar. So it's not even like John has to put them in a second place. Now, what we would have to decide, in my mind, is how we decide what goes on that calendar. So I think we would probably have to write something, or have an agreement, or have some kind of criteria like we did for using the Heritage Center. is what would go on that calendar. You know, what kind of meetings, what kind of whatever. So, what do you think about that idea about the calendar? I'm looking for a one-stop, shop kind of place where people can kind of get information about what's going on. And then we can have a little better idea of, you know, maybe, I think there are more things going on in the town we just don't know about because we don't know where to look. So I'd like to put, what do you think
So
about
who
that?
would gather the information?
People would have to submit that information.
Okay.
Yeah, they would like send it to us.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're not gonna go looking for it. They would have to submit it. I think once people find
So
out.
we'd have to publish that we're looking for people
Right.
to send us the
Right,
information.
and that's where our criteria would come in,
Right,
you know,
okay.
so.
So like if a neighborhood was having a yard sale, they could put that on there. If it's here in
Well,
McCandless.
we'd have to figure out the criteria, maybe that's something that we would want on there.
So it's kind of
Maybe
a
we
nice
wouldn't
way.
want an individual yard sale, but we
No,
would
but just
want
like a
like a
neighborhood.
collective yard sale. I don't know what the rules would be, you know, I don't know what the rules would
Yeah.
be, but we want to encourage our community to engage, we want to encourage our community to relate and to,
Yeah.
and so I thought this was a good way. So we could have Savvy come and give us
Do a presentation.
a presentation, you know, if we needed that, or go with it, what do you?
Don't need it?
I don't think you need a presentation, I mean, it's just, they handle the mechanics. And it's cheap. I
Yes,
mean,
right.
it's $200 or
It's
something a year,
a
because
year.
we get a discount down to like, because we get a bulk discount, and then we get a discount because Sewickley was added as a customer, so now we're down to
Right.
$2,100 a month, we keep this up,
right.
they'll be paying us.
They'll be paying us.
But besides,
Like the idea.
so it's inexpensive, and it's just, the idea is, I think, as you said, the rules that you would set up,
Right.
is gonna be crucial, so if you wanna
Mhm.
take the plunge, I think, you know,
I think
it's not gonna
it's a good idea.
require that much
I
more
like
time
it.
for John.
I like it.
Yeah, I think it's a great
Okay, good
idea
idea.
too.
All right, so, let's everybody start looking, start thinking about what kind of rules that we think would be, you know, feasible, and then, we'll stick it on, not next week's agenda, probably a committee meeting agenda, and figure out, what your idea is of what we'd like this to be. The other thing too, go ahead.
I am so sorry, I completely forgot to mention something for the
Okay.
community day. Because we're talking about communities and communications, Ross has already selected their community day weekend.
I was gonna bring that, I forgot to. Yes,
So-
September 7th.
September 7th, they've set it, so that's the weekend we usually have ours. And they pretty much told me, they requested that we don't do it on the same weekend,
We always
so.
have it the second
Second
Saturday.
Saturday,
Second Saturday's the 14th.
When is theirs?
7th.
The
They
7th.
set theirs for the 7th.
Okay.
Okay, cause here's my thought, either we could do,
Ours is the 14th. Ours would be the 14th.
I was thinking either that or Labor Day weekend, when the Greek festival's going on, so there's more activity, you know, people coming here for that would wanna come here and piggyback off of that. I actually talked to Dan and the chief just to get their ideas about that, and they were like, yeah, that sounds fine. Cause I didn't know if that's just too much for like crowds, but,
Do people go away for Labor Day?
So,
see, the
Yes.
kids are
Yeah.
back in school,
Yeah.
so I mean, from what I know, everyone's just here and around.
It makes no difference to me, I'm just,
So, or we could do the 14th. Either way, I just think we should pick it now and put it on the calendar before anyone else,
Yeah.
other
One-
communities
one-
do it, and
Well,
then
I
we're.
agree with putting it on the calendar. I'm not sure, I agree with the holiday weekend.
one instant reaction is that, the ride company that we use, not that we have to build our schedule around them, but they are a fairly significant component. They have us built in for the second Saturday, and by getting it a little deeper into September, but not too deep, like this second Saturday, the earliest it could have been this year was the 8th, which is the second Saturday was the 8th. Next year, it's the latest it can be. By building it a little bit deeper, it gives the kids in school a chance to get back, and band is practiced up and so forth. There's some other, it's probably something to put back to the committee and get their input, because they noodled about this a number of times about how should we move the date and so forth. Maybe just some revisiting on that, some more homework. But Ross, yeah, we have had on the same day as Ross before, and there's no, people in Ross go to Ross's and people around here go to ours, and so it doesn't really matter. I don't think that's any impact.
So should we just go with the 14th, and then that way we could put on the calendar? So
I'd
when you go
love
to
to.
print it, that way everyone sees
Right.
it, and then we can say then, here's our rain date too. If it's the next night, the 15th, we do fireworks.
That should be in the contract with for the fireworks, and then if any of the acts are willing to book.
Yeah.
Because we tried that about, I don't know how many years have we done this now, 17, 18 years. We tried to have a rain date, and too many of the vendors said, I can't commit, but the acts that we are paying down payments for, we ought to have a rain date. I think that'd be a great idea to regroup. At least the fireworks pin down like the next day.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a great number of booths this year.
For this,
Since we-
for the
since-
Autumn Fest, yeah,
Right,
about
since-
80.
Since they were free. We have
Yes, it-
like 80 booths, which is great.
Good,
bring your-
excellent.
And a lot of them, people bringing their own tents. Yeah, I think we should put it on the calendar, it's a good
I
idea.
think so too.
Yeah,
So should we just go with the
think calendar
14th?
would be very good. I think the 14th.
Since you guys said the second Saturday.
And then the rain day the following
Yep.
week, or the
The next
following
day,
day?
the 15th, the next day.
Check with, best to do is to check with the shooters. I mean, that's our biggest expense, $60-some $100 for
The
the fire-
shooters.
Yeah,
Fireworks.
For the fireworks.
Don't say that. They call themselves. It's not what everyone else calls them. It's like,
The shooters are the people that shoot, so.
I know.
Okay, so I should ask Dan about that? Who, doesn't he have the contract, or do you have it?
Yeah.
Okay.
yes, yeah.
Okay, so we'll just put it down the 14th, and then we'll know by the next meeting if it'll be the 15th or what. Okay. That's it.
Okay. The other thing too that I'm getting a lot of out of the steering committee is, again, with the not having anything to do, and I talked it over with a couple of people here, and I wanted to bounce it off to everybody to see, what do you think about us having, and it could be a new committee, or it could be an expanded role of the Community Day Committee, to have a group of people who worked on planning or organizing or coordinating with existing activities to kind of bring more activities to the community.
My personal feeling is if you go with the Community Day Committee, I think we will have to add more people rather than those, and we don't know if the people who are on Community Day, if they're interested in doing that kind of thing, that would have to be discussed.
Right. And
But I'm just thinking about the people that are on it right now, do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they would wanna do that kind of thing since they work all year on it.
Do we even like the idea of getting a committee together? It may not have to be appointed, could just be a group of people who volunteer, to try to, get more activities, get more things going in the community, to get, more community involvement.
Madam President?
Yes.
So as we discussed a little bit earlier, if we could find a way to expand our town's partnership with various organizations within the community, that may be a catalyst to create additional activities. We did talk about the recently created McCandless Community Association. And the town has been a great partner, as has the school district and has even Allegheny County with the recent Pumpkins in the Park party for kids. We had hundreds of people up there, and so I think you've got folks like that, and then you've got other organizations like the North Hills Community Outreach. I think if we, and maybe this is the leadership committee you're talking about, Kim, is a committee that would provide that outreach to those organizations and say, look, we would like to see more activities occurring in McCandless, and we'd like to partner with your organization in some way, whether it be to foster a community garden, whether it be to foster a farmer's market.
What if we just expanded that group that you're talking about? You know, that did the movies and all that, couldn't we expand that group?
Well, we, you know,
I mean, I don't know,
full
what are your thoughts on
disclosure,
that?
full disclosure, I'm on the board of that organization, and our mission is to build a stronger McCandless and to create a charitable, venue for the businesses in the community to fund that kind of activity, so that it isn't at the taxpayer's expense. And I think that's what we're all trying to do here.
I thought it was for a community center.
That potentially it could in the future.
Oh, I thought
Um,
it specifically was for, I thought that was originally what was said.
It was,
I
it
thought that
was actually, the original formation of it was actually spawned from the flooding that we had down on Highland. And we realized in the town that there was really no specific charitable outlet for the town to address that type of a need. And some of our first board members actually were flood victims down there that joined the association and helped us as founders. So the community association then, though, we looked at the model in Hampton Township. Hampton had a community association formed, which over the span of about 10 years ultimately became the operator and actually the conduit for charitable donations to create that community center and help develop it. So, I mean, but that's very strategic. I think you have to learn to walk, crawl before you can walk.
And I'm thinking of something kind of not just charitable things, those were the things that I mentioned.
You're talking
but
about activity.
Educational things, activity
Right.
things, all manner of activities that would be involved.
And you know, Madam President, I think Allegheny County does so much in that park, right in McCandless, with the ranger programs and with the Leadodome Nature Center, that I don't think gets enough attention and promotion within
Going on
our
the
own
calendar.
town. Yes.
It's going on the calendar.
Absolutely.
Rule number
You know what
one.
I'm talking about? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
But we've talked about getting the rangers from North Park over to the Heritage Center. You know, that was one of the activities that we talked about.
And I could see where those groups would work together.
Right.
And I could see
Absolutely.
where that group would work together with the EAC, planning the.
Well, plus on the calendar, you could put the Heritage Center activities.
Right, right. And like I said, this group could work with the cleanup with the EAC or whatever we
Right.
did. So this group would have kind of tentacles of kind of pulling everything together that's happening, all different places I'm thinking of. What do you, or does this,
I think it sounds good.
should it be just a volunteer group that we put out and people come and go as they please and help out, or a whole nother appointment thing? We'd have to, of course, write, rules and goals and objectives and all that kind of stuff. What do you think?
I think we should establish our clearinghouse calendar first and see what we're
Right.
working
That's what I was
with.
gonna say too, yeah.
Okay,
And
all
then-
right.
And if you
Yeah.
just
Go
leave it
ahead.
open
Let's
just
give it a
to
year on that,
volunteers,
maybe.
you'll
I
get a
think
whole
so.
bunch of enthusiasm at the beginning,
Yes.
and then it'll dwindle. You know what I mean?
Okay, it could be.
I
Could
mean,
be. These are just
Yeah,
ideas.
just from experience,
just
it'll just
ideas.
dwindle.
Okay, all right. All right, so we notify Savvy Citizen that we're interested in that, and maybe they even have a set of rules that other people have used with their calendar.
When you asked me to go to the booth, I did, and they said that some of it's kind of loose with some of their couple clients have started. But we'll get that from them. And just one of the, along the lines of the last two things you talked about, something council may want to consider is what Cranberry did was created a not-for-profit of its own, so that it, and that's what this committee you're talking about, the activity committee could do, and have that, because it's not you, I think Chris has been tacit on this, but there's things to consider, that if you open up the doors to events, how you regulate the events, because you're a governing body, is different than if you had a separate little organization that handled it for you. Just food for thought. So yes, let me get some information from Savvy. And these last two things sound pretty cool.
Can you get some information from Cranberry and see how
Oh,
they,
yeah.
how they,
Heck,
I mean,
They love
let
that.
you talk manager to manager and let
They
us
love
know.
to share.
One of the municipalities, they go, no, they don't have any rules, they put everything
That
in
was,
there.
yeah.
Well,
They're kind of winging it, yeah.
we'll have to have, I'm sure we'll have to have rules. But-
Yep,
but
okay,
there
we'll
was
do.
one who didn't. That's all I had.
That's good.
Town manager, thank you. Town manager's report. We have that report there. Are there any
Yeah, we
questions
covered-
about it?
Covered a couple things on it already, if anybody has any questions.
I support resubmitting the Green Light Go grant for
You got it,
19 to
then
20. Everybody
we'll
for
do it.
that?
We'll do it.
Submit to, okay. And number 9, what do we got some results about HVAC? What was that
Oh,
about?
a lot of results. They're not cheap, but they're in the budget. We can afford them, but we have some, fix them ups to do.
Ask the library, they'll tell you it's not cheap.
Well, it's not as bad as the libraries, that's for sure. But we, because of there's no sense getting, we can talk about it, the budget, just very briefly.
Okay.
Good report, and we were able to amortize over some time to get key aspects done. One of them is to address our boiler, so we don't have to do all these gosh darn repairs.
That's gotta go.
And the company that we have is no longer with us, they're still in existence. We're not a customer anymore, and we have a new company in the offing. I'm waiting for a contract. They were recommended by the engineering company. Their combustion services. Bill, did you hear?
From Sure.
We could report it all?
Oh, they're fine, yeah.
Okay. So you'll see in the budget that we have some repairs. The police station is on a separate, has a separate air handler, and that's being recommended to be replaced. And again, but some bigger numbers, but affordable.
Okay. Okay.
I think this is great, what we received for the recycling grants.
Yeah, we did pretty well.
That's really,
I did not put it in this, I forgot to actually, I didn't think about the meeting I have coming up. We have a quarterly, or every 4 months we meet with Waste Management, a few things to knock around with them, and I like one of the things that Republic did without any coaxing, and that was, we got a monthly recycling report, and it was people, I'd like to have our public be able to see on our website the bar graph of where we are this month, and then that's an incentive unto itself.
makes them more
Hey, folks,
conscious.
yeah, we did X
Yeah.
number of tons last month, let's go for a few more. And Waste Management, they need coaxed into this, and Wednesday's coax in time, because they're tardy on their reports to us, because we want to advertise that. There's a lot that the EAC is doing about promoting recycling education, especially with the next generations, which is good stuff.
It is good stuff. Any other questions about the town manager's report, comments? Town attorney, everything confidential?
Everything confidential. If
Everything's a
anybody has any-
secret.
Hate to be it, but yeah, it is.
Any questions about the secrets? No. Okay, good.
That is a secret.
It's a secret, you can't
it's a
ask it.
secret, no telling,
Any
no
citizens,
telling.
any public have any comments about all these committees? Or on anything we talked
Not
about?
much public left.
Hey,
Die hard. This is so much.
It is, we meet here every Monday, and it's just this much laughs every time. All right, the meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Yeah.